so please elaborate. I mean, if you'd like to elaborate, I wanted to hear what you were gonna say.
Yeah, I do love talking about the nine-centered yoga phenomenon because there's something that's, well, there is yoga as a holistic thing
Hmm.
from India, from say Tibet, from the East.
Hmm.
And then it found its way over to the West, and in the West commercialized it, basically. We
Mm,
said,
that
this
makes
is
sense.
another form of exercise, this is another form of exercise, and maybe sometimes there's a little bit of breathing, or maybe there's a little bit of sitting meditation or something involved.
Mm,
However, the holistic picture of yoga is a much more inclusive system. The classical strategies had yamas and niyamas. So we had do's and we have don'ts. So it was like
mm,
a system of morality even.
cool.
And it was being able to practice different asanas, different body positions. It was being able to practice with breath work to achieve different states of mind. It's this ability to withdraw the senses from the external world and look inward to see what's inside and what's on the inside. And then from there, you finally achieve a state of meditation, which is different from simply taking a meditation class and sitting down. Wherein in the old days, they would go through this step-by-step process of living a certain way, of doing different
Mm,
breathing and different body postures and various other practices before they could even enter the yogic state of mind. And so for me, yoga basically means union. It's
mm,
realizing that separation is an illusion and that the entire idea that you are distinct from me and I am distinct from you is part of the Maya. It's part of this matrix and it's part of
mhm,
this game we play, which gives us things to communicate. And so I see it as deeply, deeply valuable. And it's also limiting if we get caught up in all the words and the thoughts and we mistake the territory for the map, or we mistake the map for the territory.
that is
And
incredibly enlightening. Thank you for explaining all of that. That is really, yes, chef's kiss.
well, I'm happy to share because the whole thing with nine-centered yoga is it's about differentiation. And so for me, the foundation of nine-centered yoga is, as somebody may already know, it's type strategy and inner authority. It was the beginning of this whole thing is if you learn how to make decisions correctly as yourself, then you've begun differentiating. And so then if you say go to a yoga class, you might learn, oh, I really enjoyed this Kapalabhati breath work, or I enjoyed this alternate nostril breath work, or there was this one horse pose or the cat cow, and there were these various things that I really liked. And so there are things that I want to carry forward. And there are other things that maybe didn't feel right and I don't really care about. And so I can let those go. And so as part of the nine-centered system for me is being able to embrace that each one of us is utterly unique. And so I have taken deep consideration for leading nine-centered yoga classes. And part of what I feel there is I feel like maybe I'd have 3 people at a time that I'm working with, perhaps at most, because I really want to be
Mm,
with these people. I'm not simply there to bark orders and do what I tell you to do and let me break you and rebuild you in the way that I think you should be built. It's much more so I want to share with you some techniques and what techniques land well in your body. What does your body like, or what does it really not like? And being able to, at the very least, become aware of these things and to find the places where we can expand the comfort zone and maybe go out of that a little bit and then return back into the comfort, and then also push the boundaries and come back into safety and find this way that we can expand our consciousness in all kinds of different ways because each person is unique. And that's really what it's about for me in that sense.
yeah, I love that. I love all of that. And I feel like if I had come across nine-centered yoga before, I maybe would have more of a practice. Because that's, I think, the biggest thing for me, Obviously, I can, d dismiss any sort of like suggestions anyone gives. It's not like anyone can force me to do anything, but there are certain things that I like to do with my body that are not necessarily guided, right? There aren't that many people who know exactly how to deal with, maybe somebody who needs more like one-on-one, like fluid learning, right? Something like that. So really, really cool. I love that that's something that you're very passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's life-changing to know that we can actually take care of ourselves. Something I'd actually
Totally.
found within myself, I call them the 5 points of yoga. It
Hmm.
begins with the awareness. Most important thing is simply awareness, being aware, paying
Yeah,
attention.
100%. Hmm.
Number two, I give as the breath, because
Mm,
if we go without breath, that's going to take us out quicker than basically anything else.
totally.
After
Very
that, I
true.
have the diet, because food and water, if we go without food and water, that's going to take us out pretty quick too.
Yeah, definitely.
Next up, there's movement, because we have to be
Mm,
able to move. And the thing is
right.
each one of these builds upon the other. So it's like, what is your awareness of your movement? Are you moving enough to be healthy? Because if you're not moving at all, if you're still all the time, your muscles are going to atrophy. And if you need them for
Mm,
something, they won't be available.
true.
And as the last point, and last but not least, because none of
Mhm,
these are less or greater than the other, they
mhm.
balance together to make that five-pointed star of what yoga is all about, is
Nice.
stillness.
Mm,
Is that we need to have time where we can be still. This is something
mm,
I believe. And it's not
yes.
necessarily, I can't say it has to be true for everyone. And yet the technical thing is we go to sleep every night and you're most likely not running around the house doing chores while you're sleeping. You're most likely
Yeah,
laying down relatively still sleeping. And so it's an important part of our life.
totally. Unless you're me and you're a rotisserie chicken at night.
Right? Turning and turning and turning and turning.
Constantly, yeah, just like a lot of movement. But it's really funny. I love that I was literally waiting for that last one because I do believe the same thing. I believe that those like it just that resonates so strongly. You know, when you said that, I was just like, wow, like that feels like truth with a double with a capital T, you know. I'm just
Yeah.
like, wow, that feels right. It's nice when something feels right intuitively and maybe not necessarily, you know, waiting for that wave. I'm like, no, I know this is correct, or at least for
Right.
me, right, in my experience. So, yeah, that's beautiful. Oh, cool. I really wish I'd come across this earlier, but it's good. This is the perfect time, as it always is.
Isn't it? It's right now.
Yeah,
There's no
it's
other time.
true.
We can
It's
imagine
true.
the future or remember the past within the present, and yet it's always within the present.
It's always within the present. It's seriously, it's very, very, very true. It's so funny, you know, coming on here, I was not feeling too great, and now I'm just buzzing with like excitement and just, you know, like really feeling a lot better, and I'm really grateful. I also felt a lot better when you told me you were a generator because
Ah.
I just wrote a song as like an ode for generators. And I'm so excited about it. I feel like generators don't get as much appreciation as the other types. I feel like, you know, maybe for people who don't really understand design, I think I'm mostly speaking to, you know, people who are just kind of coming in, you know, whenever people learn their generator, they're like, oh, and I'm like, what do you mean? You guys are magical. Like, and so I wanted to write a song to really just, you know, show my appreciation.
Well, it's wonderful. Thank you. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, I know that in my mind, I have had thoughts of wanting to be a projector, for instance. That sounds cool and
I've
wonderful and
heard
all
that a
these
lot.
things.
I've heard that so much.
And
Yeah.
yet the reality is, like, as a generator, the thing is there's so many of us, and I think that's what makes it seem like lesser, because there
Yeah.
most people are generators. It's like 70% of the population or so is generator
Yeah.
or a type. And the thing is I can understand not receiving, not being given many accolades or happiness to the generator, because the vast majority of the generators out there are literally generating hell on earth. They're generating a field of frustration, and then everybody
Yes.
else has to deal with what amplifies inside them from their frustration, and so they're not
Yep.
happy with them.
Yes. That's something I've been wanting to talk about forever. I haven't known who to talk to about it. So I'm really glad you brought this up because this is something that's really huge. And I think part of why I'm here, you know, I feel like as a manifestor, I have this like this gift of being able to impact in ways that hopefully I can you know do justice to or give justice to, but I feel like that's part of the reason I'm here is just to show people like this is not necessarily how you need to continue living if you're not happy with the way you're living. And so